What's happening, cat daddies and foxy mamas? It's the Blaxploitation fanatic back with another episode of the Blaxploitation Appreciation Podcast, where we celebrate Blaxploitation culture from music to movies to books and everything in between. So let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Now, first and foremost, I want to apologize to you as the audience. I went back and listened to the last episode, and man, the audio was horrible. So hopefully I made some improvements this week and it'll sound better. When I was editing, seemed like everything was fine, but I went and listened to it on a couple of different platforms. And like I said, it was just horrendous. So for that, I apologize. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this thing for this week. And the movie for this week is featuring the king of Blaxploitation himself, Fred Williamson. It's a movie called Black Eye. Now, in the Blaxploitation genre, Fred Williamson has done tons of movies, and that's why I call him the king of Blaxploitation. As far as characters he's done, Tommy Gibbs from Black Caesar and Hell Up in Harlem might be the only quintessential Blaxploitation character he's done. But again, when you think of all the Blaxploitation brothers and sisters and the amount of the volume of work that they've done, without a doubt, man, Fred Williamson eclipses them all. So to me, that gives him the undisputed title of King of Blaxploitation. But this particular movie, Black Eye, came out in 1974, and what it's about is Fred Williamson plays a cop, a former cop turned private detective, private investigator, who's looking into multiple murders related to this stolen cane, this coveted artifact, which is, you can see it there on the poster. I don't know if that's a pig head, a dog head, a duck. I don't know what it is, but it plays a very prominent part in this movie. So, of course, who do you have? Got the king, Fred Williamson himself. And then you have as far as his leading lady, the lovely Teresa Graves, which you may know from Get Christy Love. Now, when I look at Teresa Graves, man, when I look at that, again, she's beautiful, like most of our Blaxploitation beauties that we cover, but she is like a spitting image of Whitney Houston to me. And if you do your research on the internet, conspiracy theories abound that say that she was Whitney Houston's mother. Now I look at that and I was like, she's going to be Whitney Houston's mother. She was only 15. But apparently, conspiracy theories say she was forced to give up the baby to Sissy Houston, but she's Whitney Houston's biological mom. Man, I tell you, the stuff they come up with on the internet. And then here's just another, black and white picture, but it just shows how beautiful Teresa Graves is. And kind of the main character from the Blaxploitation genre, you have a very small role with my man Eddie Wilson. You may remember him as Sweet Daddy from Good Times. And then there's another actor from Good Times who I'm going to show a scene a little bit later. And it's a kind of scene where you'll hear the voice. And I want to see if you can figure out who that is. So those were kind of like the main Blaxploitation actors as far as this. And then one other person who was in it is Richard Anderson. And you may remember him. I don't have a picture, but he played the director on the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. So he was kind of like the handler in the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman series from the late 70s. So he plays a part in this movie as well. Okay. And in a nutshell, what the movie is, the movie itself was adapted from a book. What's the name of that book? The book is Murder on the Wild Side by Jeff Jacks, this book right here. And although it's not a Blaxploitation paperback, because the character Fred Williamson plays as a private detective, Shep Stone, he's actually a white character in the book. I think they casted Fred Williamson to try to capitalize on the Blaxploitation craze. But just looking at that book cover, even though it's not a Blaxploitation paperback, that's an awesome book cover. So the movie in and of itself is a good movie. And one of the things I do with Blaxploitation movies is I kind of group them into three tiers. You have tier one, which is at that very, top of the line, high end classic. That's your Max, Superfly, Shafts, Coffees, and those. And then at the other end, you got those that are just flat out horrible. I mean, to the point that even blaxploitation fanatics like myself. We'll watch them because we love the genre, but we'll even admit that these are terrible movies. And that's like your Blackensteins, and there's some others out there, Super Spook, things like that. But then you got that middle tier that's just kind of like, it's not great, not bad. It's just a decent movie that probably made for a really good viewing on, a Saturday to go to the theater. And that's where Black Eye falls. And again, technically, I think had they not built it or pushed it as a blaxploitation movie, it probably would have did a lot better because it's a pretty decent movie. And again, I think they just cast Fred Williamson to capitalize on the blaxploitation craze. But in a nutshell, Shep Stone's investigating murders around this cane. So, if I had to give you the quick and dirty rundown, it starts off with this. To get the history of the cane, it starts off with this golden age movie, black and white, and there's this actor carrying this cane. So that's where the cane first makes its appearance. That scene, this particular actor, I guess, died because now we're at a funeral, and at this funeral, they lay this dude to rest. His wife places that same cane on the casket. Oh, because we see a newspaper article that tells us that this famous actor died. So his cane gets plopped on the casket. Somebody comes and steals the cane. This chick comes and steals the cane. And then there was a person in the funeral party who, when they walked the family to the limousine, he came back looking for the cane and he sees this chick taking off with the cane. So that's kind of where that goes. Now, the chick who steals the cane, she gets actually killed. And this is where Shep comes in place because he lives in the building where the chick who stole the cane, and he kind of sees some dude lurking around her apartment. So he goes to check it out. And when he goes to check it out, the killer jumps out on him. They fight. The killer gets away. But that's what the killer did, is he stole the cane. So now when this killer steals the cane, we cut to another scene and the killer has this cane. He's all kind of frolicking with it. And he gets a call, which is, I guess, is from the person who hired him. And now he tries to shake this person down for more money. Stone, so Fred Williamson playing Shep Stone, he pounds the pavement to find out more about the dead girl. Turns out she was a hooker who, did pornos. Not a big part of the movie, but that's what he found out. And then he gets hired by this guy. So kind of on another note, Stone gets hired by this guy to find his missing daughter. Okay, so that's kind of like a case he takes on. Well, it turns out the dude the killer who got the cane from the chick who stole it, he winds up getting killed. And as Shep investigates, he finds out that that guy was the boyfriend of this missing girl. Okay. So now Shep gets the cane because he goes into the killer who got killed's apartment, gets the cane. The old man from the funeral, so the original person from the funeral party that was looking for the cane at the funeral, he kind of comes into play, and Stone, which is Fred Williamson again, he follows that old man to see, because here's what it is. That old man came to the killer's apartment looking for the cane, and when he couldn't find it, he was kind of upset. So Stone trailed him back to his place, and the guy pretended like he didn't know anything about this cane, but he took an interest in it once he found that Stone had it. Some thugs beat Stone up, take the cane from him, and then what it ultimately boils down to is there was something. People are not after the cane itself. There was something inside of the cane, because now the thugs who get it from Stone, they look inside of it, and whatever they're looking for isn't there. So they think he has it. So now they're like chasing after him, trying to find out where's the contents of this cane. Well, the missing girl who he's after, another side note to this, is she's part of this hippie religious cult. And turns out there was heroin in the cane. The dude who was her boyfriend who got offed, he had given her this heroin. And the man who claimed to be her father, who hired Stone to look for his missing daughter, he's not even her father. He's just a guy that's looking for the heroin as well. So this is how this all plays out. And then at the very end, there's a climactic fight with Stone and the dude. and then it all comes to life. So that's the story in and of itself. I know, I didn't go into a lot of detail. I usually don't like to give you tons of detail. Again, shout out to my guys over at the Black Death 101 podcast, Nubius Black and Johnny Death, because they do a podcast on Blaxploitation movies and they go into deep detail with theirs. I just try to give you a kind of like a surface summary because I want you to go check it out on your own. But again, that's Black Eye. And so with all that being said, do we have some scenes from the movie? Yes, we do. So let's talk again, like I said, even though it probably would have been better or would have done better, fared better in the theaters had it not been billed as Blaxploitation. The Blaxploitation aspect of it, of course, has some hip dialogue and jive. So what I'm going to show you right here is a scene with my man Teddy Wilson and Fred Williamson. So just some of the hip dialogue. So let's check this one out real quick.
Now either tell me what I want to know or tell me to get out, but can that super spade bullshit.
Well, a boy with a ploy, huh?
No, a man with a plan. Now I'm thinking a lot of grass gets passed in here. Maybe a little hard stuff, too. I figure some night I come in here, put my hand on the table, I find myself a bag.
Don's calm. But maybe I'm the cat who knows where it's at, Mr.
Stone.
So I love when he was like, the Don's a con, but maybe I'm the cat where it's at. So just an example of some of the hip dialogue. Now, of course, I try to pull out some humor as well. So here's a little funny scene because remember I said the missing girl was part of this religious cult. Here's a scene where Shep goes and confronts the leader of the cult. So let's check that one.
Walk in the peaceful path of Jesus. We will not tolerate the blasphemy of violence. I tell you this as a humble servant of the Lord.
It's a mighty humble car you got there, Rebel.
The Lord provides.
The Lord provides. I love it, man. He said it like with such conviction. And it's just, that was pretty funny to me. Okay. And then, so my last scene, like I said, there's another guy in here you may remember from Good Times, but this is kind of like two scenes spliced together. You're going to hear the voice. You'll see the character, but you'll hear the voice more. And I want to see if you can kind of figure out who this is when you hear the voice. So let's check that one out real quick.
Get up, children. Get up. Do you feel Jesus in your heart this morning? Lord have mercy. Stand up, brother. Stand up. Let me hear you say amen. Hallelujah, children. All sweet Jesus. I got you, Jesus. I'm with you, Lord.
So if you can, kind of, I know it's hard to see, it's a little fuzzy, but if you know who that guy is right there, that is Dap Sugar Willie. Now, some of you may say, who the heck is Dap Sugar Willie? For my fans of Blaxploitation TV from back in the 70s, sitcom Good Times, if you remember the character Lenny the Hustler, my name is Lenny, and if you got a penny, and he would have like toasters and watches and everything in his fur coats, that's him. That's Dap Sugar Willie played Lenny the Hustler. So he had an uncredited role in Black Eye. All right. So that's our movie. Now let's go ahead and shift over to our book. But before we shift to our book, I want to actually give a shout out to our sponsor for this week, which is man Vantanas for the big fellows. So you can check out his eBay store, which is Vantana11, or you can scan that QR code. And this is for, all the big dudes out there. My man sells sneakers, hoodies, t-shirts from XL to 4XL. And even if you're not a big dude, he also carries like books, CDs, vinyls, cassettes in the hip hop Blaxploitation genre. So definitely go check my man Vantana. I'll check his eBay store out. All right. So now let's get into our book for this week. And our book for this week is The Black Assassin by James Howard Readus. 1975 Holloway House book. This is one of those where when I look at the poster, not the poster, when I look at the book cover drew me in because it was just an awesome book cover. But unfortunately, it's one of those where the cover was more exciting or better than the book itself. Now, whereas most of the Holloway House books were, the Blaxploitation paperbacks at least, were kind of like hood themed, urban oriented type of deal. This one was a little bit different. And the premise of it is a black man is programmed by a clandestine group to be an assassin and then dispatched to take out some high profile targets in an effort to get a black senator poised to become president of the United States. In a nutshell, what this basically is this group was trying to get this senator, black guy, in position to become the president. And so they hired this hitman, this black assassin, to take out any targets in the way. And so, again, the book in and of itself, it's a decent read, but just looking at that poster, man, the poster is awesome. And it's a little bit better than the book. And my man, James Howard Readus, that's him on the back of the book, looks like a cool dude. He has several other novels that we'll probably cover in future episodes as well. All right. And so now the last thing we're going to cover is our music for this week. And our music is a group called Black Nasty. And the album is Talking to the People. This one came out in 1973 on Enterprise Records. I wasn't familiar with Black Nasty, but turns out they are a funk soul group from Detroit. So I mean, I would have been 2 years old when this album came out, but even then, knowing many musicians from Detroit, being from Detroit, I just had never heard of them until much later when I found this album. But it's a nice, funky soul album. And one of the interesting things is Johnny Mae Matthews was the architect of the group. Now, you may say, well, who is Johnny Mae Matthews? She is considered the godmother of Detroit soul. And several of the members of the group, look at that, they're definitely black and nasty. Look at that guy over there, this guy. But several members of the group were members of her family. And like I said, Johnny Mae Matthews was known as the godmother of Detroit soul. And I have a little funny Johnny Mae Matthews story because when I was in middle school, one of my classmates lived down the street from her. And I was that was at the point where I was getting into, the hip hop, starting rap and stuff like that. And turns out that he's set up a meeting for us to, I guess, audition for her. And when we went to see her, she wasn't really into rap, wasn't like looking for rappers. So she was like, hey, do you guys sing? And granted, we couldn't sing at all, but she was like, sing something for me. And tried to do a Ralph Tresvant impression. I think we were trying to sing Cool It Now. And I was like, every day I walk her home from school. And my voice was cracking and everything. And all I remember is her saying, oh, no, y'all can't sing. Get out of here. So that was pretty funny. Now, I did actually wind up reciting or busting a couple of the raps I had written for her. She was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But again, nothing came of it because I just think she wasn't really looking for rap at the time. But that's my funny Johnny Mae Matthews stories. Now, the album in and of itself, they have some cool songs on here, but I'll tell you the four that is definitely worth checking out. I got some snippets. I may play one just because, again, fear of the copyright and all that with the music. But they have Talking to the People. That's funky. We're Doing Our Thing. That's funky. It's Not the World is a socially conscious joint. And then the one I'm going to give you a little bit of, it's Getting Funky Round Here. That's this one right here. So that's just a little teaser, a little snippet of what you might catch on the album, but definitely it is one worth checking out. All right. So that's what we got for you this week, Foxy Mamas and Cat Daddies. As always, if there's something you want us to watch, something you want us to read, something you want us to listen to, let me know and we'll see if we can work it in. But until the next one, definitely go check out Black Eye with my man Fred Williamson. If you can get your hands on The Black Assassin, go ahead, pick it up. And again, if you want to see more like these, check out my website, www.blaxploitationpaperbacks.com. And for a funky soul listen, check out Black Nasty, Talking to the People. All right. So I'll catch you on the flip side, Foxy Mamas and Cat Daddies. Peace.